What's up out there, YouTube? This is James coming back at you with another informative video. I hope all is well out there on the other side of midnight, heading into Monday morning. I'm doing real good myself. I come across this sick and ghoulish story right here involving this 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlich. He's accused of robbing graves at Mount Moriah Cemetery on one side of Yeadon and Philadelphia in Delaware County. Okay? Yeah, you heard me correctly. This dude was caught with 100 skeleton remains in his home. All right. It is said that his neighbors gave him up. Okay, caused him to be investigated when they start noticing a unusual large amount of flies hanging around the windowsills of this man's home. So they figured something was going on strange in there. And surely, they had the police investigate it and they found these 100 skeleton remains. Now, I don't know if this guy is some sort of necrophiliac or necromancer or whatever. He may as well be, but they claim that he was basically is evidence that he could be selling these body parts or skeletons or whatever online. Which to me makes whoever's buying this shit from him as sick as he is, I have two videos that I want us to check out, and then we'll get back to the commentary.
Just when you think you've heard it all, this case out of Delaware County might make your stomach turn. Prosecutors are accusing a man of stealing dozens of sets of human remains. This is the 10 o'clock news. I'm Jason Martinez.
I'm Sheba Russell. Investigators say they found human skulls, mummified feet, and decomposing body parts at the suspect's home. Chris O'Connell has more on a story that is disturbing on so many levels.
Delaware County prosecutors say he was a real-life grave robber straight out of a horror movie. A man arrested for stealing human remains from graves, some as young as infants, others 200 years old.
Very simply, detectives walked into a horror movie come to life the other night.
Delaware County District Attorney Tanner Rouse outlining the twisted alleged crimes of 34-year-old Jonathan Gerlich of Lancaster County. He's accused of stealing human remains from 26 mausoleums and underground graves at the historic Mount Moriah Cemetery in Yeadon. Some of the remains as young as infants.
Some of these are 200 years old, some of them obviously much newer. There's one that had a pacemaker still attached to the body.
Prosecutors say it was old-fashioned police work that cracked the case. After a series of grave desecrations at Mount Moriah, Yeadon police set up a sting. On Tuesday, Gerlich was arrested at the cemetery with a burlap bag full of 30 human remains, many of them children. But when police searched Gerlich's home in Ephrata, Lancaster County, they found more than 100 human skulls, large bones, and other skeletal remains, as well as jewelry taken from graves. 8 more skeletons were found in a nearby storage locker.
Detectives have recovered an awful lot of bones at this point, and we are still trying to piece together who they are, where they are from, and how many we are looking at, and it's going to be quite some time before we have a final answer.
Those who walked through the cemetery near Cobbs Creek Park recently noticed graves being desecrated. One guy tells us this mausoleum was repaired just after it was burglarized.
We saw some graves that had been obviously opened or disturbed. Kind of hoped it was just maintenance work and stuff, but always suspected it might be some kind of, grave robbing, for lack of a better term.
Gerlich is charged with more than 450 counts on charges of burglary, abuse of corpse, and theft. Authorities are not clear what he was doing with the remains, but they are looking at a Facebook group devoted to the sale of human bones, where Gerlich was seen holding several skulls. The Delaware and Lancaster County medical examiners are now trying to date and identify all of the remains and possibly find affected families.
We all have loved ones that passed. Like, rest in peace is rest in peace, and this is definitely something that tears at your heartstrings.
Gerlich is being held in the Delaware County Jail on $1 million cash bail. Prosecutors say there's a very good chance he may have burglarized other local cemeteries. In Yeadon, Chris O'Connell, Fox 29 News.
We have new details in that gruesome case where a man was arrested and charged with burglarizing graves and storing remains in his home and storage unit. Chris O'Connell, you've been following this story since it broke. What are police saying?
Well, Jason, police think that Jonathan Gerlach was selling at least some of those human remains online. Investigators say he had collected a trove of human skulls, skeletons, and bones, including full corpses hanging from his basement ceiling.
I never thought I would see this in my life. It was an experience that you really don't want to relive.
The Yeadon police chief says he's seen a lot in his career, but nothing like what he saw when he walked into the home of accused grave robber Jonathan Gerlach. He was one of the first inside of Gerlach's Ephrata home when they discovered more than 100 human remains of people who have died decades, even centuries ago. Investigators and medical examiners were back at the property today. They say 8 more bodies were found at a nearby storage locker.
They were basically on display. There was some stuff in boxes, but most of the stuff was on display.
According to newly released affidavits, police say Gerlach used crowbars and screwdrivers to break into dozens of mausoleums and underground burial vaults on both the Yeadon and Philadelphia sides of the historic Mount Moriah Cemetery. You can actually see where some of the stones were moved and vaults burglarized. 2 corpses stolen from this grave, 7 sets of remains stolen from this family plot. All of the remains were from those who died many years ago, but some as young as infants. Descendants of family members buried here are sickened.
It's yucky. I mean, anybody finding out, we think that, we're going to rest in peace and be okay there. And I mean, it's their landing space of their body, not their soul. So there's peace in that.
Neighbors at Gerlach's Ephrata home started to get suspicious when they started noticing flies around the windows.
It was more than 5. It was at least 20, 30 on each window. I figured it was a garage that they were getting in through somewhere and they couldn't get out, and now finding out that there was all those remains in there, it makes sense.
Investigators are trying to figure out if other cemeteries were hit. In December, a tip came into police about a grave robber in Luzerne County. A tipster told police they recently discovered a partially decomposed corpse hanging from Gerlach's basement. They also say he disappeared for a few days and mentioned that he had been in Chicago selling a human skull. Police are looking into a Facebook page devoted to selling human remains. Investigators wonder how long it's been going on or what else they may find.
What could this evolve to next? You're collecting human remains. What's the next step in the evolution of this? And that's something that, hopefully we will find out why.
Now, Gerlach remains in the Delaware County Jail on $1 million cash bail. Investigators are now trying to connect loved ones with their family members' remains, but since all of them died many, many years ago, Dawn, they understand it is going to be a challenge.
No doubt, Chris, and so disturbing. Thank you, Chris.
How sick is that? Now, you would think with all of this unnecessary censorship on these social media platforms that Facebook would have been the first one that saw the red flag, in the first place with this guy. You see what I'm saying? Selling human remains, dedicated to, selling human remains on Facebook. Hell, you can say something. They messing with, your page or whatever, just like YouTube. I remember I saw where, earlier, just last year, where this guy had cut his dad's head off and had been on YouTube doing a live stream for 20 minutes before it was complained about, and then they took it down. You see what I'm saying? So see, well, they got their favors. Let's just say that. But back to this situation right here. How sick can he be? Back in the 30s, when Boris Karloff made this movie called The Body Snatchers, that was just a movie. You know, and that's basically what Boris Karloff was doing in that movie. He was basically doing the same thing that Jonathan Gerlach was caught doing. Digging up bodies, selling them to doctors for so-called scientific studies. I'm telling you, these two-legged possums out here is sick, man. You know what I mean? The deceased can't even rest in peace for these lowlifes right here. And it's not so much as the deceased resting in peace, because look, those souls are, you know, on the other side of another dimension with the Most High. Let's just say that. But it's just that the relatives cannot find peace and solace in their cells, because lowlifes like this out here digging up their relatives and selling them for money or whatever else the sick bastard could be doing with it. Like I said, this could be a necrophiliac right here, right before us, because they are sick. Ain't no telling what they could be doing. These are some of the same people you see every day. You work with them. You see them out in passing at grocery stores, filling stations, wherever you go, you know, and you just never know what they're into. This one is a grave robber. Ain't no alleged to it. You know you a grave robber, and those flies gave your ass up. You see, and that's just what it is. Yeah, they need to throw the book at your ass and lock you up for the rest of your sick, miserable life for doing this crime that you did against the dead, to where you can prosper off of their human remains. Just sick all the way around. But this is the country we live in, you know, and it's almost like anything goes. And that's just what it is. That's all I got on this, people. I want you guys to tell me what you think about this story right here. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on it in the comment section. That's if you can comment. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. People, please remember to live your life as though we're being watched. Simply because we are. This is James, and I'm out. Peace.